Om Shanti. How are you? Today we are going to see the bizarre curse given by a saint Gautama to Lord Indra. And the curse was to have thousands of vaginas all over the body of Indra. And let's go into the details of the story that actually earned him that curse, and also the real implications of that story. So, Lord Indra is the head of all deities. So, although he should be considered the protagonist of the story, instead he is shown like a villain. So that itself contradicts with what we know of. Lord Indra has at his disposal 330 millions of beautiful men and women at his disposal. Despite that, he lusts for supposedly the most beautiful girl on the planet, who is Ahalya. But unfortunately, Ahalya was already married to a famous great saint Gautama. Even after knowing this, Indra decides to possess her. So he disguises himself as the saint Gautama, and he enters the house when Gautama leaves home to take bath in the river nearby. Although Indra was disguised as the saint Gautama, Ahalya, due to her chastity, has the power to differentiate between her own husband and Lord Indra. But still, he let Lord Indra to have sex with him, mainly because she was proud that someone as great as Lord Indra himself lusts for her beauty. So she was proud of her beauty. But before Lord Indra leaves the home, original saint Gautama returned from the river, and he was shocked to see Indra disguised himself to be the saint Gautama and had physical relationship with his wife. So that infuriated the saint, so that he started cursing Lord Indra with the curse that his body should be covered with what he sought for. So as a result, his body was covered with thousands of vaginas. Not only that, he also cursed his wife Ahalya to be converted to a stone, because being a chaste woman, she must have possessed the power to differentiate between the real husband and the stranger. Despite that, she let Indra have sex with her. So it's her fault too. That's why he cursed her to become a rock. But Ahalya cried for mercy. Then the saint Gautama regained his consciousness, and he said he couldn't take back the curse, but she should have to wait for ages till when Lord Rama comes and touches the stone with his divine fate. Only then she can come back as Ahalya. And Lord Indra, he prayed for mercy. Then Saint Gautama changed his curse to convert the thousands of vaginas all over his body into thousands of eyes. Either way, it's going to look disgusting. So he remained in solitude, away from the sight of everybody else. Then he performed intense tapasya for thousands of years to get rid of the curse. In case you wonder that this story actually happened for real in the past, then you should have seen the illogical things narrated in this story, like women getting converted to stone, and Lord Indra getting thousands of vaginas all over the body. Moreover, he is doing intense tapasya for thousands of years, which is highly impossible because we can't even imagine anybody having such a long lifespan. As we mentioned in all of our videos, that these religious scriptures doesn't point to anything that happened in the past. It was not a history book, but it points to the future. It is more like a prophecy of what is to happen in the future. So that future is something where we are now. Yes, everything that is mentioned in such stories represent what's happening around us now. For example, it is only now in this Kali Yuga that it is quite common among people to lust others' wives. So are we going to get thousands of vaginas or eyes all over our body? Well, we already got enough diseases that is similar to that. Especially now we are seeing many kids born with horrible skin diseases that it is very difficult for them to mingle with other kids. That's the reason they don't even go to school. So this might be the result of the curse they got due to their lustful behavior in their post births. Also, it has another meaning. So it was first, Indra's body was first covered with vaginas, then it got converted to eyes. Actually, both means the same, because in Kali Yuga, that is in the present time, due to the exposure of pornographic materials over the internet, people are so obsessed with the sexual organs. So whoever they see, irrespective of their age, the first thing that pops into their mind is about their sexual organs. People are so obsessed with that now. Not only that, the first time a man have sex with a girl, from that time on he will definitely be obsessed with her sexual organs. So whatever girl he comes in contact with, his mind will pop those sexual images in his mind. So having sex for the first time with a girl is more like cursing ourselves. So since his mind is obsessing over those sexual organs, it was mentioned in that story that his body was covered with vagina, which means his mind was full of those private parts. So his mind, so whatever he looks, whether it's a girl or grandma, doesn't matter. His mind automatically pops up sexual images. So anything he sees triggers his mind to create sexual images. And that is the main reason we are seeing rapes increasing day by day. And also we are seeing many extramarital affairs, many abnormal sexual behaviors among girls and guys. Since he is constantly bombarded with sexual images, it looks as if he was surrounded by sexual images. That's why his body was shown to be surrounded by vaginas. And they were later converted to eyes, which means whatever he sees only the sexual organs. So his eyes sees nothing but sexual organs. Even in Bible, God says if someone is not following his orders, then he should be cursed with getting infatuated with everything he sees. So it doesn't seem like a curse to any of us, but God says it is a curse. If your mind is obsessed with sexual things, it is definitely a curse for us, because it is only when we get infatuated by everything we see, then our mind becomes so weak that it can no longer differentiate between the right and wrong. So we end up taking wrong decisions, thereby we end up committing more and more sins, because of which we will definitely be punished sooner or later. And Ahalya got rid of the curse when Lord Rama came across her house and touched the stone with his feet. Then she raised from that stone. What it actually means? What does it mean if somebody is at somebody else's feet? So it obviously indicates that somebody who is at somebody's feet is definitely the slave for the other person. So for the sin of having extramarital affairs, she is cursed to lose everything and serve as a slave for somebody. That is what that curse indicates. So it continues for birth after birth for doing that sin. Not only that, once you start committing a sin, that sin is definitely bound to increase birth after birth. And that is the main reason we are seeing this world getting worse day by day. And in order to understand how Lord Indra did intense tapasya for thousands of years, when you couldn't find anybody living more than 100 or 115 years to the maximum. So what it actually indicates is we have been committing sins for thousands of years, which means actually, to be exact, for the last 2500 years when this world was hell. Before that, this world used to be heaven for the first 2500 years, in which we absolutely committed no sins at all. So we were so pure. And it is only in hell we become body conscious and become addicted to sensual pleasures, because of which we start committing sins. And due to the sins, we are losing everything. Before that, this world used to be heaven, and we were blessed with everything that is required for us to be happy all the time. So for the first 2500 years, we were not body conscious. Instead, we considered ourselves to be souls that operates this body. So we could call it as being soul conscious. So God comes 100 years before the destruction of this world and reveals this secret about this 5000 year time cycle. And God asks us to become soul conscious again. And in order to do that, you have to not only consider yourself to be the soul again, and also you need to connect your mind to the Supreme Soul, God Shiva. He is called Allah, and Heavenly God, for the God is just one. He is also a soul just like us. The difference between the Supreme Soul, God Shiva, and all other souls that reside with Him is we enter this birth and death cycle that lasts for 5,000 years. While God stays away from this cycle, nonetheless, He enters an old man's body just 100 years before the destruction of this old world, just to give this knowledge and to make us soul conscious again, so that we become eligible to take birth in heaven again. Because after the destruction of this world, this world will be renewed back to heaven. So in order for us to take birth in heaven, we should have filled ourselves with all the original divine qualities we possess initially. So how can we achieve that? So that's why God gives this knowledge called Murli, which is available absolutely free of cost in all Brahma Kumaris Rajyog meditation centers. So it is by remembering God as a point of light that shines like a tiny star in the golden red colored light world as much as possible, our soul will be filled with the power of purity. So as our soul gets more and more pure, we will find ourselves getting away from the worldly attractions, so that we will find ourselves getting away from these 5 vices: lust, anger, greed, attachment, and ego. It is because we do not have that power now that we become prey to these 5 vices. Once our souls get filled with the power of purity, we will no longer be attracted to anything or anybody around us. But we are getting this knowledge just 100 years before the destruction of this world. So now we need to do intense tapasya or meditation, which is just remembering God as a point of light as much as possible by becoming soul conscious. So the more intense we engage ourselves in this meditation, we will be able to wipe out all the sins that we have been committing for the past 2500 years. So it is highly impossible for us to stay in tapasya for thousands of years, but by performing intense tapasya now, we are able to wash away the sins that we have been committing for the past 2500 years, which was mentioned in the scriptures as Indra was. Not only Indra, we can see various instances where many people were performing such intense tapasya for thousands of years, which actually indicates this particular time where we do intense tapasya that washes away the sins that we have been committing for the past 2500 years. While we were in heaven, we were absolutely free of any trace of these 5 vices like lust, anger, greed, attachment, and ego. We were as pure as God Himself. Then you might wonder how a baby was born in heaven. Of course, it would be born, but not out of sex, but out of yogic power or the power of thought. When a man and his wife have this thought of having a child together, his wife becomes pregnant. That's the power of thought of a pure soul. So that is why the residents of heaven were worshipped as deities in Hindu temples till date. But what we do not know is we ourselves were deities in our past lives, and God has come to just remind that fact and to make us become like that again. So it is by performing many sins after taking birth in hell, especially sins of sexual nature, that we start losing health, wealth, peace, blissfulness, and everything. And that is why we have lost everything now. And it is with the directions of God, by being in remembrance of God, we purify ourselves. Thereby, we manage to get everything that we possessed 5,000 years back, which was mentioned as Ahalya becoming Ahalya again, Indra becoming Indra again, after intense devotion for thousands of years. These days, it is very common for men and women to have multiple relationships even before getting married. So, obviously, they would have thoughts of that even after getting married, and even while having sex with their corresponding life partners, they will definitely be fantasizing about their previous partners, which was mentioned in this story as Ahalya having sex with someone who was actually in the form of her husband. What that story actually indicates is she was actually having sex with her husband, but having thoughts of having sex with Indra. So even for that sin, she is cursed with such serious effects. Then think of how much curses would we all have to endure. So now God comes to rescue us from the effects of all the curses that we have been getting for the past 2500 years. The only way for that is to be in remembrance of God and also listen to the direct knowledge of God called Murli, which is available absolutely free of cost in all Rajog meditation centers. As I mentioned earlier, I will be giving the links of the descriptions of I'll be giving the links of the YouTube channels and websites that has this Murli in the description below. So please make use of it. Om Shanti. Thanks for watching.